We're going to show you how to make some mortar mix for repointing your Pioneer stone house. I get asked this a lot on what components we use in our mix, and as you can see, we're restoring this beautiful rock home in Sanpete County, Utah, and we've repointed the whole house now, all 4 walls. We've got a little bit here and there left. So we've had a lot of practice, and we don't profess that we are experts at this, but we've kind of trial and error to different concoctions of mixture components, and we found something that we like. So I'll show you what we did, and if you like these results, then you'll like this mix. So the first thing you want to do is start with sand. This is masonry sand that I got from Redmond. The best sand that you could use in this area is Point of the Mountain sand from Salt Lake, but it's pretty hard to get down here. It's rarely in stock. Up in Mount Pleasant, I believe, is where you get that. But this is Redmond sand, which is redder, which isn't the best color for this application, but I'll show you how you get there. So I just fill up one of these 3.5 gallon buckets at a time, full of sand. You can see that the sand is quite fine. But yet there's a lot of little stones in there. We'll break that up in a sec. And it's pretty cheap to get too. You can go down there with a trailer or your pickup truck and buy a couple yards, and it's not too bad. And then the next ingredient is Type S lime. And I get another one of these 3.5 gallon buckets, and I do it about 2/3, half to 2/3 full. You put that on top. And this is pretty caustic stuff, so try not to breathe it. I would definitely wear gloves. These ones are pretty worn. These are just real cheap. These are like $2, and they're really nice because they'll save the skin on your fingers from drying out. Then the next ingredient is white Portland cement. Just leave the camera the same angle, Dad. And I take 1.5 cans worth, and this is a 16-ounce coffee can. So here's 1 can, and you want to use the white Portland, not the gray. This is quite a bit more money. I think this bag's about $28, but it lasts a long time. We probably bought 3 bags for this whole house. The more concrete you put in, the faster it sets, the harder it is. And you don't want the mortar mix to be too hard, because when something has to give with the weather and the ebb and flow of the stone, I guess, you want the mortar to crack, not the stone. So the Pioneers didn't use concrete, they used a lime and sand mixture, but we use a little bit of concrete because it just goes together a little bit better. What the lime does is it makes the sand malleable and kind of, I don't know, kind of play-doughy, if that's a term I can use. It makes it a lot easier to work with. So 1.5 cans of that. And then because it's reddish sand with a lot of white, your end product, if you were to place this between the stones now, would be a very white mortar mix. So to combat that, if you use the Point of the Mountain sand, it'll be a little bit tannish, which is what you want. But even then, I'd add a little bit of color. And these are the colors we use. This is a kind of an orangey tan, which is color number 5447. I just have a laundry scoop here, and I use about 1/2 to 2/3 around there, about 2/3. Put that on top. The other color is color number 61078, and this is a dark brown color. And I use about quarter to a third of that. Put that in, and I usually mix 2 loads at a time in a wheelbarrow, but I'm doing one just for for the sake of ease, it's easier to do one, but it's faster to do too. And you want to mix the color in really, really well. And I just use this garden hoe, which works really well. And I just mix it dry. And you'll see the color take shape after a little bit here. It's a little bit windy today. Hopefully that doesn't pick up on the microphone. You can see kind of the final color coming through. If you want to, you can add some at least in Redmond at the quarry, they have a sand mixture that's quite a bit more grained. The little stones are bigger, and you could add that into the mix, and it helps with shrinkage when the mortar's setting. But I use grout bags when I point, and it's a pain in the butt to have those little stones that get caught up in the grout bag. This is just a lot easier to form. So again, you could play around with your own kind of sand and consistency, but this is what I've liked. And I've done hundreds of wheelbarrows worth for this house. And you end up with something like that. And you'd never want to mix water to this much mortar, I mean, unless you had a giant crew of guys, because this is going to set way too fast. What I usually do is, if it's just me working, you know, I'll do about this much at a time, because by the time you put it in a grout bag and stick it into the stone and tuck it in, it's your couple hours. So it's about as much as you can keep up with. And then what I like to do, I really like these 10-gallon buckets, and I'll store it dry, ready to go. And so whenever I need more, I just come to the bucket and grab already mixed, ready to go mortar. It's also nice too if you add a little bit too much water to your wheelbarrow and it's a little too soupy, you can just, rather than try and incorporate the different individual components, you can just grab from your ready mix and thicken it up. A couple of things, you know, I'd definitely get a good wheelbarrow if you don't have one. This Jackson wheelbarrow's been awesome. If you buy anything less, they're so flimsy when you're wheeling it around, especially full of heavy mortar. It's just gonna, you know, wiggle apart. And then we added this Hunter's Orange non-pneumatic tire, which is really nice because you'll get a flat eventually. But anyway, for what it's worth, this is the mortar mix that we've used, that we've been pretty happy with for this